time off and go down there and spend the time. And while he was there, Hurricane Mitch actually hit. It was in 1998. And because of the hurricane, it really changed the exposure he had to the communities outside of where he was studying Spanish. He was studying in a tourist area, a very comfortable area. He was fine during the hurricane. Well, when he went back to his next Spanish lesson, he was asking his teacher, was everyone okay in your family? And the teacher said, well, our family's okay. We've dug out our house, but there are other people in our village who are still under, 6-7 feet of mud. And so my husband said, well, maybe we can go out there and do something. And so they organized a group of people to go and dig out these homes. And in that experience, he saw a side of the area, of this community that he really didn't experience as a tourist. He got outside of the glossy restaurants and, cute town and saw that the people who were working in the town, in the city, were actually not doing as well as he'd imagined they were doing financially. He thought, this is a Spanish teacher, this is somebody with a college education. Sometimes these Spanish teachers have even, masters and higher, but they're teaching Spanish to tourists. Well, it's one of the good industries in Guatemala, but it's a very poor country. It's a seasonal industry. So these teachers are getting hired and fired based on people coming to Guatemala to take Spanish. Well, in all of this, they end up not making a lot of money. And he saw his tutor's home. It was a one-room house. It had dirt floors. It had open-air windows. He lived with, his extended family. He had imagined it very differently. My husband had imagined kind of a middle-class lifestyle that we would associate with that level of,
exactly.
Yeah, and so that's kind of what inspired the concept. Well, here's this fantastic resource, fantastic way to learn Spanish. They're great at teaching us. There are thousands of teachers in Guatemala who teach Spanish. And then there are, thousands, millions of people all over the world who can't go to Guatemala but would love to learn Spanish. They're not going to spend 3 months immersed, but maybe they could get that experience another way. And at that point, video conferencing was still kind of science fiction. It was very, very early stage. But my husband had the foresight to say, you know what, I think that can work. I think that video conferencing will be able to bring these people together and they'll be able to teach online. And so Speak Shop, he told me about this idea. I first thought that won't work because it was so, it just seemed so unlikely that people would actually be able to communicate like we are now. In real time without huge glitches. So I was really skeptical, but over time I became convinced, and we kept working on this idea together. Eventually we got married, and we wrote a business plan. We started to develop a prototype. And what we thought about was, at the time, eBay was becoming really popular, and it was revolutionary, peer-to-peer selling.
Yeah.
And so we were inspired by that. How could we create a platform where people could connect with each other to learn a language, and we could have kind of an eBay of languages? So we called it Speak Shop, thinking, we could have Spanish from Guatemala, but also, Swahili from Kenya or French from Cote d'Ivoire. And over time, we decided that the eBay of languages was probably more than we could take on. So we stuck to Spanish, and there was so much need with just Spanish. And so now we have the business still with instructors in Guatemala. Of course, we had many adventures along the way, but we eventually quit our jobs in 2004 to see if we could go and find people to take a chance with us and learn how to teach online and then find customers and all of that. So it's one-on-one Spanish instruction, and we now we suggest people use Skype. At the time, we had to create our own video conferencing system. I had to build everything from scratch.
Wow. That's fantastic.
It's been a lot of fun. It's definitely the best education I've ever had.
Oh, I'm sure. Oh, that's fantastic. So, and it's doing well, but you're at Portland State now. You're not still involved with Speak Shop?
I'm involved in an advisory level. My husband runs it day to day, and I plug in at certain key times.
Okay.
But day to day is really him.
Okay, that makes sense, and it's up and running, and good job to conceive of and start and get up and running a successful entrepreneurial venture is quite an undertaking. So I go, Yahoo!
Yeah, well, it's such a leap of faith, I think especially that first one, and it is
a huge leap of faith.
It took us a few years to get there, to get to the point where some things happened that made us say, you know what are we waiting for? Let's go do this, This is
good.
it. This is the time. There isn't a better time. Now is the best time.
That's right. I think everybody who's really been successful as an entrepreneur says, just start,
Yeah.
Just start. I had a client this afternoon and she today, and she sent me a quote that her daughter was sending her because she's starting her business, and it just says, just start, just begin.
Yeah.
Wherever you are, just begin, and that's the most important thing, is to start.
Yeah, and then
that's what she's doing.
You're going to find so many times when you don't know what to do, but it's like just start and then just take a step, any step, but a step. Just keep moving forward. Yeah,
yes.
So true.
And that's all you can do anyway, by the way, is take the next step. That's all you can ever do, is take the next step.
Yeah, it's hard. Especially if you're kind of used to knowing what to do. People who have been good students or have been, really high achievers in the corporate environment. It's not the same when it's, your money and your reputation on the line, and you don't know, there is no manual, and you're creating something that's never been done before, and it is intimidating.
Yes, it is. But, you do it anyway.
You do. You do it anyway. Yeah, and you know that other people have gone through it, and you find those people, and you talk to them, and you listen to podcasts like this.
That's exactly right. So let's get back to social entrepreneurship. So what do you think makes a social entrepreneur different from other entrepreneurs?
Well, I think that there are a lot of similarities, right? You're creating something, and you have to have the same skills, commitment, persistence as any entrepreneur. What makes it really distinct is that your priority as a social entrepreneur is to create the best set of conditions to generate impact. So there's some problem that you've identified, for the instructors for Speak Shop, it's just they had a limited market. They had great skills, but their customer segment was small and predictable, and they were completely reliant on the people who were running the Spanish schools to hire and fire them and determine their pay levels. So hey, let's bring them to a world market through the internet. Well, that completely changes everything. It's a vastly different opportunity. So whatever the issue is, and by the way, there can be other issues. It doesn't just have to be one. In the case of Speak Shop, again, one of the things that we were really interested in was this idea that people are connecting across cultures, and the cultural understanding and respect that can be generated through these relationships. So it's not usually just one thing, and you're thinking about maybe a problem that's really near and dear to you, and maybe it's something small to begin with, but it's part of a bigger issue, or you look at the root cause. But the point is that you're trying to address that issue, and you're trying to generate impact, and you're trying to maximize that impact through the same entrepreneurial means that a traditional entrepreneur would use. But it does. It changes how you make decisions. It changes your strategic thinking. It changes the elements of your business model. Like an example,
instead of putting, are we going to get a financial return on our investment, number one, you're putting on it, are we going to create the social impact that we want to have? And then you're asking, are we going to get a financial return? Because, of course, we have to have some level of financial return to stay in business.
Exactly.
But the first question is going to be, are we creating the positive social impact that we want to have with what we're doing?
Right, because if that's why you're doing it, then you want to know that you're making progress toward that goal. But you're right, you have to still have all of the discipline to be successful on the financial side. And, you better make that a top priority. The difference is that maybe instead of the end goal being the financial side, sure, maybe you're wildly successful and you're super profitable. Well, hey, how wonderful that is for your mission, because then you have this pool of resources that you can use to reach more people or to, address more of the environmental problem that you're looking at. So it's just how you use those resources. The thing we like to always say is no margin, no mission, right? So if you can't succeed financially, you're not going to succeed on your mission anyway. So you definitely have to have all of that discipline and hard work. But yeah, it's a different way of looking at your strategic decision making. The example with Speak Shop that I like to give is that we could have chosen a path where the teachers worked for us. We could charge the students an hourly fee, and we could say, we're going to keep this much, and we're going to pay the instructor this much, and it's within our control, and we're going to do it that way. And what we wanted to do was not just the economic opportunity, not just creating jobs or a pay level change, but we also really wanted economic empowerment. So the idea of eBay was really exciting in our model, this idea that the tutors become entrepreneurs too, so they're running a micro enterprise through our platform. So we would say they're tutorpreneurs. So instead of instead of us saying no, here's when you're going to work, here's how much you're going to get paid, they have a vested interest as the ones who are deciding when they're going to teach, how much they're going to charge, how they're going to provide service to their customers, how invested they are in making sure they're doing a great job. And, so you see how different that might be as a choice. It might be harder in a lot of ways, but that's...
You're not going to spoon feed them, though. The people that are doing the work are the people that are going to benefit from the work being done.
That's right. They benefit the most,
Yeah, because that certainly is not the way, a traditional, I won't say entrepreneurship, but a traditional capitalist organization is set up. It's set up to give the reward to the people that invested the capital, not to the people that perform the work. So what you're talking about is changing that model so that more of the reward, more of the reward goes to the people who are actually doing the work, and you're doing that by providing a platform that puts them in business for themselves.
That's right.
Is that happening a lot in social entrepreneurship? The kind of the model that you have with Speak Shop, where other social entrepreneur ventures also provide a platform so that people providing the work can make more of the money. Is that pretty generally true?
I think there are variations of the theme of economic opportunity, economic empowerment, capacity building. When it's different, but an idea that comes to mind are smallholder farmers and cooperatives. So a cooperative where they can learn from each other, they can pool their resources, they can get market data, they can be working together to, it's sort of a rising tide, lifts all boats. It's like, so they're coming together and they're getting all of these benefits of being part of this cooperative network. They're also then getting trained on and they're getting better at the work that they do. But this idea that it isn't just about, okay, now we're going to pay more for the coffee. It's about this lasting change. It's really changing the system. And cooperatives are certainly one way to do that, and that has been an area that has boomed quite significantly, and you see a lot of social entrepreneurs in that space for all kinds of different, agricultural products. But, the idea of economic empowerment certainly is a theme that you'll see commonly in social entrepreneurship.
That's cool. I know the acupuncturist that I go to set up her business, maybe 2 years ago now, and it's definitely an employee cooperative. And, she said to me, I can't imagine why anybody would set up a business any other way. And this way, the financial returns of the business go mostly, to the people who are actually performing the work, not to whoever's name is on it as the owner, which is very different, where you're giving a reward, the financial reward to the person, let's say, doing the work rather than the person who invested the money.
Right, exactly. And I think it generally leads to better results. People are going to be more accountable to themselves.
Yes.
They want to do a really good job. And,
and
they're in it together.
Yeah. Yes. And so this is part of this whole rising tide of entrepreneurship that is taking place, as well